Well, welcome all to our UChicago Returning Scholar information session. We are thrilled to have you with us. Let me welcome you to our gorgeous campus here in Hyde Park, where all of the classes in Returning Scholars are housed and where you will be a part of this extraordinary environment should you ultimately be accepted and enrolled into Returning Scholars. We have a four-part agenda today. We want to welcome our wonderful guests who are going to be speaking. We want to talk a little bit about the Returning Scholar program. We want to give you a timeline of what's ahead, and then we'll answer your questions. And so let me start with that welcome. My name is Seth Green. I'm the dean here at the Graham School. And I really do consider this to be the jewel of our school. This is an opportunity for people to study anywhere in the university across their lives and really follow their curiosity. We are the home of ambitious lifelong learning at the University of Chicago, and we really love to see individuals able to follow their intellectual passions. And this is literally an open door to the university's classes and an opportunity to be a part of it all. And so with that, I'll turn it over to allow my wonderful colleague, Esther Pandian-Risque, who directs this program, to introduce herself.
Hello and welcome. I am thrilled. We are thrilled to have you here this afternoon to our Returning Scholars program. I'm glad you're here. So please be ready with all your questions because we will be delighted to answer as best as we can. Thank you, Seth.
Wonderful. And our first returning scholar who's going to be sharing some of his insights is Daniel Hutter, who is a doctor. Daniel, can I let you share a little bit about your background?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'll mention a little bit about myself, but I wanted to first say that I really wish I have the opportunity to speak to each of you because this program is so special and all of you have individual reasons why you might want to be a returning scholar. So I'm just going to couch what I'm going to say in things that might be helpful for you in making your decision. I'm an eye surgeon, but for the last 10 years, I've been in a career transition where I primarily do teaching. I teach young doctors how to do eye surgery in virtual reality simulation, and with the ultimate goal of trying to reduce global blindness by teaching more eye doctors in low and middle income countries how to do a low cost type of cataract surgery. And so that's what I have been doing in terms of my career. As an additional interest, I recently completed the University of Chicago Graham School's basic program of liberal
This
education.
meeting is being recorded.
And we, you can look it up on the website, but I enjoyed that program so much, which I did online, that I wanted to come to the University of Chicago and be on the Hyde Park campus and try this Returning Scholars program. And welcome to all of you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Daniel. And we are going to meet Cynthia a little bit later. She had a slight Zoom challenge and is updating her system, and then will be joining us momentarily. So let us start with a returning scholar snapshot. As you probably know, if you're on the Zoom, this is a program that allows you to audit courses anywhere in the university, whether undergraduate or graduate level, except a handful of classes, for example, the core units in the medical degree program and a few others. But otherwise, this is across the humanities, physical sciences, social sciences, biological sciences, and professional schools. And it's a chance to be in these classes with extraordinary faculty, with students that often, compared to our returning scholars, are of a different generation, and with fellow alums of the university. Just to give you a sense of the types of courses that students in returning scholars have taken just in the last year or so, you can see that it represents all of the different avenues of inquiry here at the university, from theological perspectives at the Divinity School to history in the studies of social sciences to for example, interdisciplinary courses like politics of environmental knowledge City, Space, and Power, all the way over to the business school and looking at designing a good life with faculty like Nick Epley. And so it really is a all you can eat pass to the wonders of the University of Chicago. All the classes, as you'd expect, are taught by the renowned Nobel Prize winning faculty of the university. And it's a chance to be in the program with degree students, but without having the grading that comes along with that framework. Alongside the classes themselves, you have an opportunity to have academic advising from Esther and her team. You do receive a UChicago email address, so you are kind of fully able to be a part of the university and all of its activities, including having full access to the library. And then you are also invited to all of the academic workshops across campus that all of their students are invited into, special seminars, for example, at the Institute of Politics here. And then we have really an abundance of virtual and in-person gatherings. And so it's an opportunity to be a student, be a full part of the campus life, take a class, but be here for inquiry itself and not necessarily aiming toward a degree and a graded assignment. And so with that, I want to come back to our guest. And this time I'm going to take down my screen because it feels like a perfect opportunity for you to be able to see everyone here. And so let me just spotlight our panelists. There we go. And great, my screen is now down and you can see the wonderful people that are here with us. And Cynthia, can we start with you? We didn't have a chance at the open to hear your introduction. Can you just share a little bit about your background and then we'll jump into conversation with all three of you about the program itself? And you're on mute right now, Cynthia, but we're going to see if we can. There we go.
Got
Perfect.
it.
We should hear
Thank you so much. Yes. Well, it's good to meet everyone. Sorry for the technical delay. I've been in this program just this year. This is my first year. I heard about it when I was scanning the Graham adult continuing ed classes and realized I could do something more rigorous. I just completed phase 1 of a 40-some-year career in healthcare. I'm now in phase 2. I'm teaching, doing research, but less than full-time. So I had time to explore University of Chicago, and I live in the area. So that's what brought me in, and I'm having a great time.
Well, wonderful. Well, maybe we can start, Daniel and Cynthia, by asking you a little bit about the courses that you decided to take, why you took them, and then we can hear a little bit about your experience. So, Cynthia, can we start back with you and the courses and the why behind it?
Right. So I have a little bit of a mixed up background. I do have 40-some years experience in healthcare and finished up as an executive in a healthcare system in the Chicago area, but also a faculty role. So I was interested in healthcare, but to be honest, I have a PhD in my field and I teach in that field. And I wasn't so much looking for that field as a secondary field of interest in which I have a master's degree and I'm working on a different doctorate, which is in Jewish studies. And I realized through a colleague that University of Chicago had a wealth of resources in that area. And so I decided that although I'm pursuing my doctorate at a different organization, there were some enrichment elements that I could pursue. Didn't need the credit, just wanted to learn from great faculty. And my lifelong motto has been choose a great teacher and take whatever that teacher offers, rather than be picky about the subject matter. So I asked colleagues and friends. And so what I've been able to do is look at some classes that are helpful, that I want to learn the material. I don't need the credit, but it's advancing another goal in my life.
Great. Thank you, Cynthia. And Daniel, can we come to you and what you decided to take and why? Let's see. We should have you unmuted now.
Yes, but even before I say what class I took, I would love to say why I wanted to do returning scholar and the University of Chicago in particular. So the University of Chicago is very special. I've been at a lot of universities as both a student and a teacher. And one of the things that's very special about University of Chicago is the large number of graduate students in proportion to undergraduate students. And very different from where I normally teach. You can feel very comfortable at the University of Chicago as a non-traditional student interacting with faculty, older graduate students. It's not a university that's just about the undergraduate experience where things are focused all about. So that's a very special thing for those of you who are on this Zoom meeting who are maybe thinking about different programs that might be similar. That's a very special thing about the University of Chicago. The second thing about the returning scholars program that's also different from a lot of other universities is that although we mentioned audit at the very beginning, there's a big difference between being a returning scholar and auditing a class. Auditing a class at many other universities means sitting in the back, sort of keeping your mouth shut and listening to interesting lectures. So many of the courses at the University of Chicago are seminars, and we are full participants in these seminars, and it's really special. And maybe we'll talk a little bit more about the exact experience of what it's like being in a seminar as a non-traditional student. But that's another thing that's a big distinguishing factor for the returning scholar and the University of Chicago. What I have taken so far, and this is only my second quarter, but last quarter I took a course in the history and philosophy of science and medicine, which was really fantastic for me. I'm involved in trying to affect paradigm shifts in how simulation is used for teaching so we can protect our patients and young doctors are not practicing. But when you have paradigm shifts, there's a lot that you need to overcome to change the status quo. And learning about what had been gone on in the past in science and medicine has given me additional support as I move forward in my own career. And so these are, very interesting documents and articles and books that I was then able to discuss with brilliant students and a very smart professor.
Well, so Daniel, you already began alluding to this. Can you talk about the experience of being a returning scholar? You said you're a full participant. What does that look like? How do faculty treat you? How do other students treat you? You've alluded, but I just want to draw that out because we are aiming, and there are a number of things that Esther does with the faculty in terms of orientation for them on the returning scholar, as well as with you to make sure that you are full members of every classroom you enter. But I'm curious what that looks like in your experience. And we'll start, Daniel, with you and then come to you, Cynthia.
Yeah, and so there are two aspects that I wanted to discuss. I'm going to focus on one right now, which is sort of the classroom experience. But there's another, which I hope we'll get to talk to, about what's your experience as a returning scholar on campus in general and what you have access to. So that's very important. Again, some of you on this call, might want to just come to campus, take your class and leave because you have other things that you do in the Chicago area. Others might want to spend the whole day on campus because there's so many interesting things. But maybe we'll save that for a few minutes down the road. In class, I was in a seminar with all juniors, so 19-year-old, 20-year-old. So if a generation is 15 years, 2 generations away from me. And the students are brilliant. They were all majoring in this area and with the intention of going into medicine or science. It's really amazing to hear their perspective. If you're someone who wants to keep in touch with the newest thoughts, you don't want to just stay with a cohort of people your age and know what they know, but continuously be reinvigorated by new thoughts. And it's really special. And then how I was treated like any other member of the class, except that I didn't have to do presentations if I didn't want to. I didn't have to write the final paper. But in the discussions, I was a completely incorporated into the class. And the feedback that I got both from the professor and the students was very positive. I think they looked to me in some ways as a mentor. They liked having a perspective of somebody who has a few years on them and experience in the field they're planning to go into. And I think that would be, it'd be interesting to hear what Cynthia has to say, being in the medical field, but taking courses outside her field, how she feels about it. But for me, it was very, very valuable. And I think the participants felt the same way. Thank you.
Yeah, and so Cynthia, can we come to you, hear about your experience, especially because it was another part of the university?
Yes, I completely agree that there was no distinction in the way I was encountered in the classroom than there was with the students, the for credit students. When I tried not to, of course, to be intrusive or anything, but I did ask questions from time to time. Absolutely no distinction. A couple of the students after class would say, "Now, tell me why you're here. What brought you here?" Which was very sweet and very engaging. They were welcoming. In like Daniel, but unlike Daniel, I actually have a master's in Jewish studies already. So some of these students were mostly graduate students, a couple undergrads, I think. So I had a teeny bit more advanced education, but not a ton. So if I asked a knowledgeable question, some of them would, probe that further. But the overall overwhelming feeling was, you're in this room, you are among us. Like Daniel, I didn't do the exam, for example. There was a midterm exam, but I did write the final paper just because it helped me learn. And that was for me. And I learned. The ability to do that for the sheer joy and reward is really unlike anything, I think, in education. And it's an incredible privilege to be able to do that. Overall, I found the experience very pleasurable.
Wonderful. Well, maybe you could each talk a little bit about what has been rewarding about this experience as you think about your learning relationships, other pieces. How has this, in addition to the knowledge you've gained, how did this maybe build meaningful fulfillment? Daniel, can we come back to you? And I know you feel a part of the community in a way that is very special for, individuals to be able to return to a campus in midlife and have that kind of embeddedness.
Yes, as we all age and move into mid-career or whatever our situation is, people on the call, that you would have the time to do it. But as you get older, a lot of times your community starts to shrink. And when you're youthful and young, that you feel like things are expanding. And if you really want to feel like your world is expanding, you come to the university and you'll feel that way again. And it's very special. This might be a good time to talk about my involvement also on campus.
Yeah.
So not only can you participate fully in the class, you can participate fully as a graduate student. So there's so many opportunities that have taken advantage of. Just for example, today, the director of the NIH is talking to the dean of the medical school at the David Rubenstein Forum. And this is such a special thing. So high achievers come to campus, and I double check this. Only University of Chicago students and faculty are allowed to attend this. This is not for the general public. So you have access to these amazing lectures that the highest people in academics and professional lives are coming to the University of Chicago. And as a student, you can participate in that. And then on the flip side, for young scholars, PhD students who are just starting out, they're writing manuscripts, and every week they have workshops on campus in all the different departments, and those are open to us. So I go to literature and philosophy workshops and get to hear what the young PhD students are writing about and preparing for their PhD thesis. And they give us the paper to read in advance. Again, you can't go to this. You can't get access to the paper unless you have the password and you're a student. And then you're hearing people at both ends of the spectrum. And if you just want one-off things, you can go to the things at the NIH talk, or these workshops. You'll see the same people every week. So you're entering into a community of people who you have meaningful relationships with because you're seeing them on a regular basis. So it's very embracing, and you really don't have to explain really what a returning scholar is or why you're there, because you really don't feel out of place. It's all across the spectrum, from senior faculty to college students, really have a spot for them at the University of Chicago.
Well, and Cynthia, can we hear about your experience and how you found
Yeah,
the community?
Well, largely I would echo the workshops and hearing the PhD student progress and the kinds of problems they're wrestling with, not only in one field, but in any field, as he said, is tremendous. And the content is great, but just the stimulation of being part of the conversation is also great, even if the topic may be a little more tangential to what I'm interested in. Still, being with people and keeping the thought processes fresh is delightful. The only other thing I have to add is the library. I'm just a library addict anyway. I adore physical libraries. And one day I simply went to Regenstein, started at the top, and walked the entire library all the way down and just wandered all the stacks to see what was on what floor and where were comfortable spots to sit and how might I curl up with a book or something I needed to study, or of course the computer. It's a wonderful place. It may look a little chilly from outside, a little gray, but honestly, inside it is overwhelmingly full of excellent spots to study. Either grab a book off the shelf or not. To me, that's one of the great assets. And of course, when I'm not on campus, I still have access to the entire library online. So yesterday, a text on ethics came across my email, just published, with a chapter from a University of Chicago professor. Just on a whim, went to the library website. Guess what? The entire book is available as an ebook. Downloaded it, found the chapter I wanted. You cannot do that anywhere else. It was just such a treat. And so on campus, off campus, the resources are really impressive.
Well, so far we've been talking about your experience without necessarily talking about the curation that's behind it. And I want to turn to Esther because you are the wizard behind the curtain, Esther. You know, you are setting all of this up. And so I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about how you envision the involvement of returning scholars in the campus and then how you empower that, and then how you create community because there's community that you have embedded in the campus, but then we also really wanted to form community across the graduate student at large population. So, Esther, can we hear a little bit about your philosophy as director, what you're trying to achieve, and how you build community?
Absolutely. So I see myself as a steward. I see myself as understanding all the different divisions and departments and professional schools at the University of Chicago. And I see our returning scholar program as a small gem connected to this larger architecture at the University of Chicago. So my job is to really work with our returning scholars to understand what the interest might be, to really work with individual departments and faculty, graduate divisions or professional schools to find the right fit of a classroom experience. Because as Seth and both our students have shared, this is an experience where you have the same classroom experience as enrolled college students or graduate students in any one of the master's or PhD programs. So we want to make sure that you are in the right class so you stay engaged and are interested, and at the end of the day, make valuable connections in the classroom and beyond. So there is a lot of conversation between yourself and between me and my team. I have a wonderful assistant director who will work very closely with you to figure out what the interest might be and then where these classes may reside. And then we actually connect you with the faculty or the department, find academic workshops that might be of interest for you, connect you to those workshops, do all of the administrative details for you. And at the end of the day, because each of our returning scholar is doing a different class. You could be taking a class in the humanities, you could be taking a class at the law school, in the Department of Philosophy, wherever it might be. We have a returning scholar community, and that we partner closely with the Graduate Student at Large program, which is another program I steward, where students are taking classes for credits and grades. So every Thursday, on most Thursdays, we try to have a happy hour, either online or sometimes in person, so people can come and build community again. So at various levels, we are connecting you to the University of Chicago. So my hope is that every classroom experience builds new relationships, builds new ideas and thoughts with faculty, with workshops, with other graduate students, and with the larger Graham School community. I hope that helps answer the
That's
question.
perfect, Esther. And I'll just say that I often internally refer to this as our concierge learning program,
Yes.
meaning that, in concierge medicine, you really have someone that takes the time, understands your health deeply, and figures out, okay, what's the proactive way to set up your health journey? I see what Esther's doing as really understanding what's your goal as a learner? What is your curiosity leaning you toward? Okay, how do I take all of these incredible resources of the university and figure out the right ingredient set for you to really supercharge your intellectual journey? Daniel and Cynthia, can we come back to you and then we'll move on in a moment here. But I'm curious if you have advice for others. There are obviously individuals on this Zoom thinking about applying to returning scholars. Is there advice that you would have about how to approach this experience and ways to be most successful?
Yeah, a few things. Um, as I mentioned, when I took the basic program, I did that remotely. So I was able to do 2 of my years from Copenhagen, Denmark, where I was doing research, and 2 years from my University of Miami. Um, I enjoyed it so much that I wanted to be in person. We all know that there's value to education, to any relationship being in person. So first thing is you need to be in Chicago, right? So right, and I moved to Chicago. That's the first thing. The second, I think, is you need to be clear in what you want to be learning. So the Graham School is so amazing for lifelong learning and continuing education. Some people are more focused on what's their next stage in their career, and they might want to do the leadership, the LSI program.
Yeah.
If you want to read all those texts that you never had a chance to read, and you're only focused on primary sources, then the basic program is for you. The returning scholar, though, is you could take a course where you do read the basic, the primary text, but now you're doing it in a graduate level or in an advanced undergraduate level, but mostly graduate level, where you are coming out reading secondary sources, and you're engaging with professors who are not generalists. Like many of them in the basic program are teaching courses across different subject matters. Here you're dealing with PhDs in that field. So and that's a very different experience in the basic program. They're both great, and what I'm doing is I'm still taking classes in both. So I'm taking alumni courses, at the Gleacher Center, and I'm taking classes at Hyde Park, because both of those things appeal to me. But one needs to decide, what they're really looking for. Making sure that if you're in Chicago, do you want to come to the campus? And I always say I never come to campus with only one activity. I always see there's this amazing calendar of events. So every activity that I go to, I see what else is going on. Is there a concert on campus? Is there a lecture? And I always will do at least 2 things on campus. So if you're that type of person and want to be welcomed and embraced by the university, and that then that would be my advice to you. Go for it, and also you can be intimidated because the students are brilliant and the faculty are brilliant. But my guess is the people on this call, people who are into lifelong learning, are interesting and smart people, and you won't feel out of place. It's not intimidating. So if that's your concern, don't let that worry you. I'm sure you'll fit in and enjoy it. And then I do want to say, that in terms of being welcomed, Esther's work, Marla's work, her assistant director, and having a dean who are so welcoming and embracing is also very unusual and very special. And these in-person happy hours are really amazing. And having the ear of the leaders is also something very special for us who are coming into this as a returning scholar.
Thank you, Daniel. And I will say, we're a school of adults. We really do intend that in how we approach our relationships. And, we see all of the students here as equals, and we value feedback, but we also value partnership. And so you do feel like you're part of that community in any part of our school. Cynthia, can we come to you? And then we're going to move forward so you all know about timeline and we can get to your questions.
I just want to emphasize one thing Daniel said, which I do think is very relevant. I see a couple of faces on the call who are also taking Graham School programs. So some of you are familiar with the adult learning, mostly Zoom programs through Graham at the Gleacher Center or downtown or in Hyde Park, but the learning is different. The discourse is different. The expectations are different. I would say I'm happy in both. As Daniel said, there's a time and place for both, but I wouldn't go into a returning scholar class with the same expectations. For example, the amount of reading is very substantial. That's a good thing. The sophistication of the discussion by design is much greater in a graduate school class, which is all good. So not to in any way dismiss what Graham does, it's fabulous, but know what you're getting into. And remember, this is graduate school. And if you're going to get a lot out of it, you do need to put quite a bit into it. And that makes it better for everybody in the room. So I definitely would agree with everything Daniel said.
Well, I could genuinely talk to Cynthia and Daniel all day because it is so interesting to hear your perspectives, but I want to make sure we get to questions. So Esther, I'm going to turn it over to you, talk through timeline and details, and then we will come to your questions within 5 minutes. So if you want to start adding anything to the chat that you want to ask Daniel or Cynthia or us, please start doing so now. And Esther, let me turn it over.
Wonderful. So let's talk about our timeline. Now, we follow the University of Chicago's academic calendar. So we have 4 academic quarters, and the quarter we are now working toward is spring quarter 2026. And our application deadline is March 3rd. Classes begin Monday, March 23rd, and classes will end Friday, June 5th. So that is our spring quarter. After the spring quarter, we have summer quarter. And really, traditionally, the university goes on break. So everybody gets a chance to catch their breath. So summer is when, unless you want to learn some language preparation, that is the time you would come and talk to me. Otherwise, everybody takes a break in the summer. And then autumn, we start again at the end of September for 10 weeks, ending December 12th. After which we have winter quarter, which will be in January 2027. So let's move to our next slide. The important thing to note here is, and Dean Seth might have explained it, but I do want to explain this, that this program is completely flexible. It means you take a class when you wish to take a class, and then you can take a break. You can take a break for 3 quarters, 4 quarters, even longer, and then come back and say, hello, Esther, I'd like to take a class again. And then we work with you. What happens is when you apply to our program, what will happen is once we grant you admission, I will have you on my active student database, which means you will receive emails from me with deadlines, important and interesting information about upcoming classes. So you won't be forgotten. But when you decide to take a class, it's totally up to you. You never have to reapply to the program. What happens is the moment you become a University of Chicago returning scholar, you will receive a University of Chicago ID card, which will grant you access to buildings on campus, as well as to our wonderful libraries to check out books. You also will receive an 8-digit University of Chicago student identifier, which means you also belong to our registrar in terms of their database. And so every class that you take will be recorded by our registrar, and you will receive a transcript with the classes that you take. Okay, so back to our application process now. Completed application online, which is rather simple, I would think, not very complicated. Just fill out all your details. Statement of purpose, literally a page and a half, maybe two. Tell me who you are. I'm really interested to learn about you and what might bring you here to the Returning Scholar Program, what you're interested in. Or you can just basically say, I'm just bored. I want some invigorating classes. And then, you and I will talk, or my wonderful colleague Marla and you will talk, and we will find some courses together that might be of interest. We do ask for a resume or CV if you might have one, put that in. And we do ask for transcripts because you're taking classes with students across the university. The program requires a 4-year bachelor's degree. So we do require transcripts. So please put those in. And then, TOEFLs and IELTS for our students who completed their studies not in English language medium. There is an application fee. And once you submit your application, we will conduct a Zoom interview with you, really just to get to know you, get to know who you are, and look at courses together. So it's a very wonderful time for conversation. And within a week after that, you should receive news, whether you've been granted admission, and then all the credentials start working. Next slide, please. Cost. So each class, so remember, wherever you're taking this class, whether you're taking it at the college, whether you're taking it in any of the 5 graduate divisions, whether you're taking it in any of our professional schools, except the Pritzker School of Medicine, each class where you're taking classes and you're auditing it, meaning you get a transcript with the letter R for sign of audit for the grade, the cost is $2,800 per class. There's an application fee of $81. And these classes, you will receive a transcript, and all these classes, you will receive materials, you will have access to all the Canvas, so you will have all of that information as well. Next slide, please. Perfect.
Well, and we are at questions, and we have a number in the chat. I've tried to answer those that were straightforward directly, so please do look at the chat and see if you have any further questions on those. Let me come with the last question here to you, Esther.
Yes.
If someone completed a Juris Doctor over 30 years ago, do they still need to submit transcripts? I believe the answer will be yes. And then they ask about proof of employment. I do not believe that anyone needs to show proof of employment.
No, not at all. Absolutely correct. So we would, yes.
Do you want to just clarify that the goal of getting those transcripts is not that in the audit approach, we are judging people on whether or not they got a B- 30 years ago?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. This is just a requirement that the University of Chicago, because you will be engaging with students and with material that faculty are putting out. So they really would like you to engage. So yes, so when the program was created many, many years ago, there was a requirement. So that is why we look for undergraduate transcripts.
Are you expected to complete another program at the Graham School before applying to be a returning scholar? I can answer that when it's easy.
Yes.
The answer is definitely not. These are
Absolutely
all parallel.
not. Yes.
So returning scholars is its own opportunity.
Yes.
You can engage in it at any time.
Yes.
I would say that, to the points that have already been made, returning scholars is really about the individual who is endlessly curious because this gives you access to the entire catalog of the university. And it's for people that really want to go back to school and they want to be accountable in an even deeper way than in our traditional classroom, which is a wonderful setting and you're enjoying inquiry, but you're not necessarily in an environment where students are being expected to perform in a certain way toward a grade. And even though you may not be graded, being in an environment like that with faculty who are aiming to get students toward PhDs, it is different in the nature and experience. And so we're thrilled as a lifelong learning universe to have all of these different pathways that can meet people in different places in their life. We have a lot of questions about specific areas. So let me just ask you, Esther. You can obviously take classes at Booth here, and you can audit in their curriculum.
No, not
Oh,
for Chicago Booth. For
I'm
Chicago
wrong.
Booth,
Okay, sorry
yes,
about that.
they only want for grades. So for that, if you're interested, we will work with you for our graduate student at large business program, where students take classes at Chicago Booth, and then we will help them apply to the MBA program. And if you're granted admission, up to 3 classes that you take through the GSALB program will map perfectly in.
Okay,
Yes,
well, I'm glad we clarified. Let me ask you a couple other questions, which I replied to in the
absolutely.
chat, but you'll keep me honest. Someone was interested in courses in the areas of drama, theater, those
Yes.
areas. We have
Yes,
those certainly in the
absolutely.
humanities and
Yes.
arts.
Yes, we do. We have returning scholars gladly, happily taking classes.
Wonderful. There's also interest here in East Asian studies as it relates
Yes,
to global
absolutely.
trade.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Great. There's someone here interested in PSD. Can you just speak
Yes.
to
Now
the
that,
many people taking
yes.
classes there and at the law school?
Yes, so for PSD, because these are classes, as we all know, it's either mathematics, computer science, statistics, data analytics. It's going to be tricky to audit these classes because professors would save seats for students, who want to do the work and do the examinations. Because remember, returning scholars, you can choose to write the essay and do the exams, but it's not a requirement because you're not being graded. So for these math classes, for these STEM classes, the faculty would rather have the TA, the teaching assistant, secure time for those who need the grades. So it's very tricky for STEM classes. We can try, but that will be tricky. So we will discuss, you and I, and we'll see what we can do for the STEM classes.
Wonderful. And one common question that we're getting here is for people that are interested in remote. I'm
Yes,
just going to put in here
yes,
a link, and that
please.
link is to our course catalog. For
Yes,
the most part, the
yes,
classes in returning scholars are in person.
yes,
That's because what you're doing is you're taking an existing 4 credit class within the undergraduate or graduate programs of the university, and the core of the university, whenever we're giving out credit, remains fully in person. For
yes,
those who are interested in lifelong learning online, we are thrilled at a school to also have a catalog of our own non-credit online learning. And I put that in the chat. And certainly we invite anyone who's thinking about online to be a part of it. The benefit of our online universe is that it remains in small classrooms.
yes,
And so we continue to keep the maximum of 18, and you continue to be a full participant, even though you're in a Zoom environment.
And also,
Um,
there's the MLA program,
yes.
yes.
which is
Mhm.
online, but you
Mhm.
do get a degree with that.
Masters of Liberal Arts. Absolutely.
And for
Yes.
those out there, we apologize for what may sound like jargon soup. What I recommend as a antidote is that in the chat is a time that you can set up with Esther. And
Please. Yes.
importantly, Esther is not only a gateway to the university through returning scholars, she's also a wonderful member of our team. And so it's not infrequent that someone sets up time with her to talk about returning scholars, but over the course of the conversation and really understanding your unique learning goals,
Yes.
she may recommend a peer
Yes.
program
Yes.
across the lifelong learning universe here. So the benefit of going to her is that even if you're not sure about returning scholars, she can also help direct you to other programs because she's been a part of our team for more than a decade and knows the universe here so
Yes.
well.
Absolutely. Seth, could you unmute Cindy's
Oh, I'm so sorry. Go
no,
for it,
no,
Cindy. You should
yeah.
be able to speak now.
No, I just wanted to comment. There was one person who put in the chat interest in East Asian studies. That's an area where I've seen a lot of courses listed. So it just feels, I just, again, want to say what you did, Seth. This is a major university and the catalog is open. It's stunning what's available.
And then to the question, you do not need to be an alum, and the overwhelming majority of returning scholars are not alums of the university. And we do not have housing as part of that returning scholar program, but certainly there have been people like
Yes,
Daniel who have moved
yes,
here, and we
yeah,
can advise on living in Hyde Park.
yes.
Through Leadership in Society, a lot of people move here, and so we have a full list of recommendations from the university on where to look should people consider relocating for a quarter or more to Hyde Park. And yes,
Yes,
law school classes,
yes,
Esther, are also
yes,
open.
yes. Law school courses are open.
And there's not a discount for returning scholars above the age of 65. I will say that you should know there are many classes here included in this that are multiples sometimes of the cost to audit through returning scholars. So that number is in some ways, compared to the university's tuition, a generous one and reflects that the university really wants to encourage learning across all ages and stages of life.
And just to reiterate what our dean has shared, I meet with many prospective students, and if it might be the best for some other program or certificate or experience through the Graham School, if it's not returning scholar right now. Just as a good example, I am a student of the basic program right now, and I am totally, completely enjoying it. So it's that fluidity to move between programs at the Graham School and the University of Chicago, which is what makes this experience so unique.
Any other questions that people have? We want to be respectful of time, and I know we're supposed to go till 12:50, so we want to make sure we get you out in order here. Well, maybe I'll just close by saying that even amidst a team that is endlessly enthusiastic about lifelong learning, Esther truly does stand out in our team for being the most energetic and enthusiastic.
After
And
you,
May I
Dean Seth.
just please I have to reinforce that
yeah.
comment. Weekly emails, the latest and updates, links that work, everything you could want at your fingertips. Superb
So I'll
support.
just encourage again, I know we'll send a follow-up email. If you have questions, talk to Esther. At the least, you'll have more energy afterward, and at most, you may have a plan for your learning agenda. Thank you so much for joining us and for considering us as you continue your lifelong learning journeys. And Daniel and Cynthia, thank you for being role model lifelong learners, and Esther for curating all of this. Have a great day,
Thank you
everyone.
so much, Dean Seth.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, thank you.